Hello guys, can you hear me well? I guess yes, right? So I'm Eduardo. I'm Sitecore MVP for a few years already, and I'm currently working with Avanade in Canada. So I would like to have a better sense of who my audience is today. How many of you are on the technical side as developers or solution architects? Perfect. And from you guys who are on the business side, actually working with EXM as a power user or not actually working with EXM, but on the business side. So you and over there, 2 or 3, so it's mostly technical, I guess, but there's a little bit for, I guess, for both sides here on the presentation today. So let's get started. So I have been working with different projects with Sitecore since 2008. When I started working with Sitecore, at that time we had other options that we're also integrating, and we started doing some migrations from legacy systems like Vignette, etc., to Sitecore, and Sitecore was by far the best platform that I had worked in terms of content management systems. At that point, it was actually mainly around content and the content management system side of it. After that, we started having many new features being added on top of Sitecore. First with OMS, and then DMS, etc., and now XDB, that provides to the marketing folks, to the digital marketing folks, a lot of extra functionalities in Sitecore. And one of those extra functionalities was a module that was brought together, first called ECM, the Email Campaign Management module, that was later renamed to EXM, so everything is X experience now in Sitecore, so it's more aligned with the new technology in Sitecore. So why is email important? Probably you guys haven't seen some stats like that says 92% of internet users, they have email. Pretty much everybody has an email and uses their emails. Email is still probably the preferred channel for communication for a lot of people. I'm one of them. I actually don't like getting like phone calls if I have like a form to fill in a company or something, and they ask what is my preferred communication channel. I would say, yeah, just email me and I'll read that whenever I have a chance. The marketers, they know that. So they are using email a lot, of course, because it is a very efficient marketing tool to be used. And it's really important for them to understand the results of the campaigns, of the different communications that they have through all the different channels, but also through the email, particularly one, and be able to understand how many users are actually opening their emails, how many users are actually interacting with the website after they receive an email in a campaign, and what's going on after that. So all that flow, all that kind of information that Sitecore can provide through EXM and XDB and all the analytics dashboards that we have along with Sitecore. You guys probably have also seen this one already, so that's why I was asking who is a developer or solution architect or who is on the business side of it. But this model was put together a few years ago. It is on the Connect, the book that Lars and other folks at Sitecore put together. And it provides us an overview of what is required for a company to climb the ladder of their digital maturity in terms of using the tools that they have in place to establish an actual conversation with their customers. So that dialogue with their customers starts with a very simple website where they pretty much have only, I guess, information being provided, but not a lot of interaction, and goes to the point where they can actually establish personalized customer experience that talks directly to the website users, their needs, through, or not just the website, but through all the different channels where Sitecore is providing content to. So looking at this model, we will see that email is a very important piece to help companies go up in that ladder of the digital maturity. And the Sitecore solution for email is EXM. This is just a copy and paste from the Sitecore website about what is EXM all about. You guys probably have already seen that, so you can just go there, but it's just to explain in a quick words in terms from the marketing perspective, what is EXM there for. Same thing, so the key features, again, just some marketing material just to make it simple to understand what EXM can provide. But what I like here is the fact that EXM is natively integrated with Sitecore, which means that we as architects and developers can talk to the business guys, understand their needs, and go there and do what is required in terms of working with the API, working with what is out of the box, put together triggered messages or campaigns that will deliver according to our customers' requirements. The Exm Dashboard provides out of the box a lot of functionalities, but again, it's case by case, right? We talk to the customer loves that. They say, wow, this is really good, but can this maybe provide me that particular information? And you look, this is not there. So how can we do that? How can we make that happen? We know that this is a speak interface. We know that we can extend that, but how do we achieve actually gathering that information in the way that will be properly stored in our sessions, in our interactions in XDB, and then we can extract that information and provide it back to dashboards like this or other dashboards that are available on EXM and also other areas in Sitecore. Some of the problems that I'm trying to help you guys understand that we solved for our clients today are, first, how to extend EXM to provide analytics information beyond out of the box. Okay, we just talked about that, and we'll go through the details of what we did for this particular customer that we have in Canada. What is the best approach to capture that information, store and process that extended analytics data in XDB? And then some considerations to make it work on a scaled environment with thousands of interactions and distributed servers. So in our case here, we have a customer in Toronto. They interact with a good chunk of the population in the city every day. I'm not allowed to, not yet at least, to give the client's name here, but what I can tell you is that their customers, they pretty much have a card, and this card has points, and they would like to know how many points they have left on that card. So that communication is done via email with this customer, and then we're putting together the solution for them in Sitecore. So we build everything already, and it's tested and should be going live the next month or so. What they are trying to do here is to provide that communication to about 2 million customers. And when it is up and running, they will have 20,000 triggered email messages going daily outside of Sitecore EXM. So we had done some tests with that volume. We had few issues, of course. Then we need to overcome those issues, figure out what was going on, things like event queue, whatever, you know, things like that, that were killing our servers, get all that solved, and then we could finally provide them a solution that they can actually test and provide a go-ahead so we can go live. And, of course, it's not just about sending out all those emails. It's also about the interaction, and every single interaction counts. They would like to know what's going on. Are users actually interacting with that email? Are they doing something after that? Are they even opening the email for the different versions of the email that we have? And that's one of the cases, and I'll focus on that one here to make it simple to go through the process of what we're doing. And finally, get that integrated with their CRM system that they use and provide that information back into the Sitecore EXM dashboard. So, in this case here, we have a screenshot of one of the components that are there in EXM providing information about a particular message campaign. So let's say in this case here we have 15 recipients for the particular message, and then we have a few extra fields and attributes that are provided by Sitecore out of the box. And we have information about how many of these messages were opened, and how many of them were clicked, browsed, etc., and the value that the interactions from that message are bringing to Sitecore using the engagement value scale that we can configure for goals being achieved, etc. So what is the problem with that particular out-of-the-box list of attributes for our case, for our specific case there? So the opened information that you have there, it says open 10, it tells you the number of recipients who opened the message. Why? Because when you send an email through EXM, it will have a pixel tracking embedded in your email. When the user opens the email, that pixel tracking will go ping back Sitecore, and will let Sitecore know about the message ID that was opened and the customer ID that opened the message. And that's it. However, in our case, we are using the same message with variations for that message based on attributes. For example, I will send the same message ID to the same customer. However, I'm maybe sending that same message, same customer ID 2 or 3 times, because I sent it once saying, hey, Amanda, or hey, Paul, you have 15 points. And then, because that 15 points is one of the attributes being retrieved from CRM using a token replacement. Then I send again, same message ID, same customer ID, but now it's 10 points, now it's 5 points. So I have sent 3 emails, but Sitecore is considering all of them as a single one because it doesn't differentiate more than just email ID and message ID and customer ID. So we needed to add a third parameter there and actually keep that message open in Sitecore as well, because they also like to get that info there out of the box, but add a new one to that particular component. So let's go through some details of EXM architecture and some other information here to get to how we got that implemented. So this is the standard flow for Sitecore EXM. You go there, you create the message. You choose the template for a message, so it will have your message ID. Then you create a list. It will have recipients for that list, or you just add some emails for the message. So from there, you're able to create the content for the message, etc. Review the message, preview, maybe send a test, ensure that everything is working fine. And then finally, you have that message distributed to your list. Or maybe you have that message scheduled for to be triggered at a certain point, etc. And finally, you view your reports. So most of this is true for our case there. The recipients list in our case, it's not coming from a standard Sitecore list, but it's actually being retrieved from the CRM, DAX, Microsoft Dynamics, that they have integrated. And as I said to you, it's being distributed in a case-by-case, being triggered according to events that happen on the CRM itself. So basically what we are doing there is that we have the message created in Sitecore, so we got that message ID. So in CRM, we go there and we enter. So this is the message ID for this particular type of message. So we have a message, for example, when a user creates a new account. We have a message for when their card needs to be updated. So it sends out that kind of scenario that I just described to you. Sends information about how many points they have left on their card, etc. And then CRM, when they have that particular event happening for you as a customer of that company, it will call a web service that we put together that pretty much does the job of talking to Sitecore using the API, talking to Sitecore EXM and requesting the message to be sent to the customer. So, starting to put together some code here for you guys that love code. First thing that we do is we need to, well, once the CRM is calling that web service, we need to create a contact in NextDB in case the contact doesn't exist there. So we know the contact in CRM, but Sitecore still doesn't know that contact. So it will create the first time, next time it will just update it. In order to do that, I'm using some code that was put together by Brian Peterson. I don't know if he's in the, in the conference today, but it's really useful. And that's one of the things that I really love about events like this and the Sitecore community. The Sitecore documentation is really good, but sometimes we do need to go beyond the documentation. We do need to reach out to our peers, maybe in Slack, Stack Overflow, Exchange, etc., emails, and blog posts. Blog posts are really a very rich source of knowledge from all the different Sitecore architects, developer, MVPs or not. So using that information, we updated and changed a little bit the code that he provides in order to make it work. So, and we added all the extra parameters. I have just a few here. We actually have way more custom attributes coming from CRM. But just to make it simple here, I have one custom facet that will be the account data with the account ID. So I have my user account ID, I have its email, or his or her email, sorry, and we will release and save that contact to XDB, and this release and save contact call here will flush the contact information to XDB. Okay, so contact is there, it is saved on XDB, fine. So now we need to retrieve the message from Sitecore EXM and send that message out. So we are using here the API provided by Sitecore for the email campaign. We retrieve the message, we retrieve the contact from XDB, and we ask Sitecore to send that message. Sending process data, sending manager will do that for us. We're just providing what is the message to be sent out and what is the recipient that will be receiving that message. So far, so good, I hope. Now what? Okay, so the message was sent. We had that issue that we had identified with the customer before. So for now, we're still not doing any additional tracking or nothing like that. So how does Sitecore work in terms of getting that information, whether the Sitecore, the user has opened the message, etc.? So basically, the way it works on getting that on the dashboard in Sitecore, it is through the process of tracking the information and then processing that information into SQL Server tables that we can read in the dashboard. Because initially we have everything on XDB. But when you go through dashboards like the one that we saw out of the box, Sitecore is talking to actually fact tables that are flat tables in SQL, that they have all the information already compiled from XDB to make it faster and easier and simpler to get it provided for reporting for final customers. Information is collected in XDB, so we have all the interactions and events there. When the user opens the message, we know that one event that will be registered is the default event open for Sitecore. But for our custom message open, we need to register a new custom event to add that additional parameter about what is the version of the message that I'm sending out. Is it like message 1, message 2, message 3 for that same message ID? So how do we do that? We use the same approach as Sitecore is using. So that's another thing as well that was mentioned yesterday in one of the sessions that I was attending. the recommendation was take a look at what we do that. Take a look on how we do this thing or how we get it implemented, especially with the pixel tracking one, and that's what we did. We went there, we took a look at how it was implemented by Sitecore, and we tried to mimic that same approach for our own custom pixel tracker. And the approach is as simple as 1, 2, 3, or should be, of course. We know that sometimes it's not as simple as that, but it's pretty much 1, tracking, 2, aggregation, 3, providing the information back to the customer into the interface. So pixel tracking, we know pixel track is just a hidden image that is there in your email. The user doesn't need to see that image. It can be just like a blank pixel or whatever, but it could even be an actual image there that they will open. Basically, what we want there is to send some parameters with that message, with that image, so we can process on the Sitecore side. We created a custom event into the Sitecore Analytics control panel to be able to track that on our custom email open. And when you create events like this, if you want, you can add points, etc. So you can also start tracking how important or what is the business or the engagement value for that particular action there. So the event is created inside Sitecore in our content tree into the marketing control panel. When our pixel tracking is rendered, when the user opens the email and that particular image is rendered, it's actually calling back an item that we had configured in Sitecore to make our life simpler. And that item will do the things that we need to do. And this is pretty much what it's doing there. It's registering the fact that the email was open. There are actually 2 different ways to register a new interaction in Sitecore. I don't know why these 2 options are out there actually, but we are going with the first one. That's the one that seems to be working for us.
That's because one registered in the tracker, and one is for registering in the back end. The interaction registry is the Eduardo. So one is to register an interaction in session.
Right. Oh, perfect. Thank you for that. So this is a little bit more of that tracking code there. We pretty much have the interaction from the session. Then we add all the information we want about our particular email. So here we can see that instead of 1, we are actually adding 3 parameters. So I have my message ID, my account ID, and I have my record item ID there as well. That should be record ID, not recite there. It's just a typo. And that is registered into our session. So when we do that, what happens is that the page event is created with our interaction in XDB. So if you go to RoboMongo and you open that in particular interaction for the email open, you will see the custom page event, email open, registered, and we will see on the data field the additional custom data that I'm providing along with that interaction. So now I am able to actually process this data and aggregate into fact tables. And that aggregation is the process of getting the information from XDB into SQL Server tables. And as it says there, in data warehousing, a fact table consists of the measurements, metrics, or facts of business processes. That is from Wikipedia. If I can't use Wikipedia, fine, so I'll go to Wikipedia source. In that case, not exactly Wikipedia source, but Sitecore source. Sitecore says that a fact table is the approach that we're going with here because it's a standard best practice for business intelligence in terms of providing such information here. And if Sitecore says that, I will believe it. So the fact tables, they are already, we have many fact tables already created in Sitecore reporting database. But in our case here, as we are creating a custom fact, so we need also to go there and create some custom fact tables into SQL Server. That's what we did. We went there, we created custom fact tables, we followed the approach as described by the Sitecore documentation, and that's always really important to do. So you follow what is provided by Sitecore. If something goes wrong, you can get back to them and, hey, I'm following what you guys told me to do here, so why am I doing wrong there? So they will be in a better position to help you if something is not working. And we created just two additional fact tables, one to record the fact for each email open record, and another one that is the aggregation that has the total of actual messages that were opened for that particular message ID. There are a few more things that we need to do in terms of putting together that code, but again, you guys will probably have access to the presentation here, and you have the links there, and we'll go directly to that documentation. It gives you the step-by-step of what you need to do. But basically, we need to create a few more classes in terms of the putting together the values for the custom facts that we are creating, and then code our fact aggregation processor, which is that processor that will run from time to time. You can configure that in your config files from when it will run, and it will always get the latest records from the XDB, look at the records that they have, the email open event registered there, process them, and put the information back into your fact tables. And finally, we can do the reporting. And the EXM dashboard is customizable. You can go and create your own additional components embedded there, or you can maybe modify the ones that exist there. In our case, we just needed to modify this particular one, and we added our additional message open information there. So now we know that we have 15 recipients, 15 users. We have 10 users that are opening the messages, but we have 17 messages that were actually opened. So without this, that additional fact table, we would not have this 17 messages open information, but that information would be 10, which was not true for our particular case. Some lessons learned from all this process here. So the first one, XDB is really, really powerful. It enables us to collect pretty much whatever kind of additional information you want to collect. So interactions at many different levels. We all know that out of the box, it does a lot already. But our customers, they always want something else, something that is not there. So it is always possible to add that extra information, and you just need to know how then you get it back through this processing of aggregation of information, creating tables, and providing back to your customer. You don't want to have reports or whatever maybe running directly against XDB. Maybe in the future with XConnect, it will be easier to extract that information and have other different, I guess, PI tools providing reports there. But using this approach of aggregation, it does work for us. Custom facets are added, so more processing power is required, of course. Therefore, it is always important to have dedicated servers in place. So if you do have, as we do have in our case here, thousands and thousands of interactions happening every day, you definitely need to consider like a dedicated dispatching server, a dedicated processing server, servers that will be specialized in doing that particular processing for you, so you are not, having different functionalities or processors fighting for resources in the same server. Configurations, no issues. They will, change. They are not the same from version to version. we had, it was even a bigger challenge for us because this particular client, they are not ready to go for the latest version of Sitecore. And that's definitely the recommendation if you are working with EXM. Always go for the latest and greatest. But they couldn't. They are not ready to do that right now. So therefore, we needed to work with slightly older version of EXM, 3.2 for them. And therefore, all other issues were then in place that we also need to provide workarounds and fixes to make it work for the client. Always have a QA, UAT environment and testing plan processes that will mimic as close as possible your final production environment. That's probably really important. We had so many variations moving and promoting code from one environment to another. You know that old say, it works on my machine. Of course it does. So your machine is just your development environment there. You have, in my case, my own instance of MongoDB running locally, my local SQL server that is just an Express version there, and everything works so gracefully there with my local tasks. As soon as we promote for a different environment, distributed servers, content delivery server, content management server, processing server, dedicated dispatcher, then you start finding issues here and there, and then you need to make sure that your promotion is always really well documented, and don't assume that the folks will just know things when they are going to get that ready to be promoted for a different level in your promotion path until it goes to production. And have your QA and your tests and UAT as close as possible to your production environment. In our case, we had at Avanade and Accenture, we have a delivery team in India, and they have a pretty robust testing team there. So they write scripts, they write as many tests as are required, and they try to do, as much tests as they can to ensure everything is working and being able to scale for the final promotion to production to the client. And when troubleshooting, use level debug in Log4net, and make sure that you go there and check the logs and check everything that is going on behind the scenes, because sometimes you just looking at dashboards and the XDB, etc., you don't actually see what's going on there. But when you have your code sending informations like using a Sitecore log audits, etc., there, you can make sure that everything is working as expected. Other info: once you create the fact tables and you have all classes implemented, you need to rebuild the reporting database, and that can be a big problem. That can be a headache depending on how big is your XDB. We were happy enough to have the customer with just an empty XDB to get started there. But if you need to go through that process, it can take days and days and days of processing, depending on how big is your XDB. So I don't know if this is maybe a topic that with Sitecore can still be maybe working on or having some discussions in order what we can do in order to improve that process. I am personally not there yet in terms of an answer of what can be done to have that, rebuild of the reporting database performing better. So again, always work with the latest recommended version for EXM. Right now, I guess the latest is 3.4, if I remember correctly. We will have maybe 3.5 in the future, some point soon, I guess. If not, yes. Sorry? Oh, next couple of weeks, that's great. So always go for that. So your client is talking about, we would like to use EXM. Make sure that they will have the latest Sitecore version first, and then you can go with the latest EXM. But if they don't have the latest Sitecore, make sure that you are working with the right EXM version for that particular Sitecore version. So all the DLLs and binaries are aligned, and then you should be good because you have the list of the known issues. You make your client aware. So this is the list of issues that we have with this version of EXM, Mr. Client. So please, don't be mad with me if something that is in this particular version is not working yet, but as soon as you have it updated to the newest and I guess latest version, you have it resolved. For that particular component that I showed there, there's only one file that I need to modify actually, which was this rendering the message overview CSHTML. I just put it there just in case you are curious what I needed to actually change to put that info in the dashboard. Let me see what else here. Okay, I'm providing the link for the rebuilding reporting database. Again, just pointing back to the Sitecore documentation just to make the slides here a little bit more useful in case you get a copy of it. And some important things not mentioned in the documentation that could maybe be updated in documentation. When you create custom fact tables, you need to create the fact tables on the secondary reporting database before running the rebuild. That is not there in the documentation, so you don't know what's going on until you figure out, oh, I actually need to do that. I have custom fact tables, but I have this empty secondary reporting DB. So before I run the rebuild, you need to go there and create your custom fact tables with your SQL queries, and then you run the rebuild. You also need to run the SQL script provided by the EXM installation before running the build. So there's a particular script there that comes with EXM that you need to run before running the rebuild. And again, this is also not in the documentation for rebuilding reporting database. So it could maybe be added there, but I'll just put that in a blog post as well. So someone running into that issue will be able to go and find it. And after you rebuild it, you just need to go there and check your SQL tables, do some selects and see everything's fine. And you should be happy. And your client should be happy. And everything should go as expected. So I guess this is it. Thanks to all the companies that are paying for all the beer we drank yesterday, etc. And you have my Twitter, my email, and my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to reach out to me, get in touch. And if you guys have any questions, I am reachable on these channels there. And if you have maybe some questions now, we also have folks from Sitecore on the back there that can help us to better understand all this process.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We have some time left, so if there are any questions now, please wait for me to come to you. Did you use any multi-language for messages?
Yes, but for this particular one, we have different message IDs than for the different.
So you create,
because the client can choose between one or another there. Yes.
So for instance, you create for English.
Yeah.
One message and another one for.
Yeah.
Okay. And the second question is, how do you subscribe users?
They are subscribed through the CRM. So we have some new rules that we need to make sure to follow now in Canada around, the fact that we need to keep a table with records of everybody that is subscribing with their, permission to receive emails and a few other things that are requested there. But yeah, that's being handled by the CRM.
I thought there was also a question over here.
Yes, thanks so much for your talk. Regarding the message attribution and the tracking that you're doing, I noticed you're doing message instances read, apart from essentially messages read from the existing Sitecore implementation. Yeah. What are you doing about the other attributions, such as value per visit, value per message instance, in other words, conversion per message instance, etc.?
Yeah, for this particular one here, we're not tracking that because the case for this user was really around, number of messages opened. But if it was the case to also track that, we would probably need to go through and expanding, exploring as well options for, if we want to track the visit per different message, etc., we need to do something like that. But for this particular case, we didn't have that requirement, so it was not something that we worried about in this particular implementation, at least.
Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty cool modification. That's actually coming very soon. We have implemented an instance ID, pretty much identical to what you've done there. So if you can't wait, then do this. But you'll have this probably towards the end of the year, October time or something like that. My only question is why did you need to spend so much time rebuilding the reporting database?
Because we needed to, in our case here, it was to populate the fact tables in our tests and everything, and we had information in the XDB there for that particular environment, but actually for going live with this one, client is going with an empty XDB, so then there is no need for that. But if you do have
haven't added any,
there, then
you haven't modified existing interactions, you've created new ones.
Yes,
so your only value in rebuilding the reporting database would be to reprocess existing interactions with extra data, but yours are separate.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's just because we had all that info added to XDB, but we wanted to actually have that populated back in our tests environment.
Right.
Because we had all the...
So you were adding interactions before you added the aggregation pipelines.
But if it was the case of using information that was there, so I just thought that it should be good to add over there the information there. But for moving to production, we actually will not need to do that.
No, of course not. And my last and final comment is my only concern with that approach, rather than hijacking the existing open and click interaction records, you may find that in the experience profile, you'll have significant duplications of open and click events. So when you open up an X profile or you query, you might find you've got multiple opens which are conflicting. And if you're not marking your new interactions correctly in the aggregation pipeline, you might find that they are counted towards experience analytics visits. So you might find your visit counts for your websites are incorrectly done. There is quite a lot of hijacking of the interaction metadata in the EXM open and clicks, and there's also a lot of suppression logic as well. So for example, in Outlook, if you're using Outlook web app, you can register like 6 email opens when it's just one, just because of the way the app works. In Gmail, they'll render the email first and then they'll present it, so you'll find. So there's a lot of suppression logic, and if you're not copying that, not only will you end up with lots of duplications, they won't get marked as EXM specific interactions, and then Experience Analytics will have some really strange wavy lines when you send email campaigns.
Yeah, that's why we are not actually changing the default pixel tracking.
No, that's the problem. Because you're not changing
another one, but we're making sure that,
So you might find, because you haven't changed it, and you might not have copied it directly, you might find that your actual web analytics data is a bit incorrect. So just maybe check that out.
Yeah, we had checked, and from that end, we're good. But yes, I see your point there. Yeah, you need to be careful. Whatever you do there, you need to follow, try to mimic as much as possible what Sitecore is doing in terms of best practices, and make sure that you test everything and look at the reports and double check. And you may find issues, of course, and then you need to figure out what's going on. It is a little bit time consuming, but it's a lot of learning as well, and I actually appreciated the process of learning all this, background info on the EXM while doing it.
All right, last one. Did you raise your hand?
Yeah. Are you using local MTA or
local MTA for this particular case?
Okay.
Yes.
All right, sorry, but that has to be the last question. If you have any more, please feel free to visit Eduardo during this event. Thank you. We have a short break, and then the program will continue at 10:45.